Hey, what's going on? Charles Austin here, and let's be fit forever. So, today I want to talk to you a little bit about bowel movements. Oh my gosh, did he say bowel movements? Are we talking about poop? Yes, we are. We are. We're going to talk about bowel movements. We'll talk a little bit about the stuff you put in the toilet when you sit down. And then we'll kind of connect the dots here a little bit and tell you a little bit about why these things are important. And hopefully, by the time we're done with this short little video here, this short little stream, you will feel a little bit more comfortable talking about this subject, or at least researching this subject, and at least understanding why it's actually an important subject for you to understand, right? But hey, as I always say, before we get into it today, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. All you got to do is hit that logo right below you right here, and you can subscribe to the channel, turn those notifications on so that you're always up to date on the latest content. Remember, we're doing streams every Monday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time, and also Saturdays at 1 p.m. Central Time as well. But without further ado, if you will. All right, let's go ahead and jump on in. So real quick, like, what is a bowel movement, right? So obviously, eating is something that we all do each and every day, and at the end of the journey of the food, it has to go somewhere, right? It has to come out at some point, right? So a bowel movement is basically the last stop in the movement of food through your digestive tract, right? So again, your food starts its journey in your mouth as you're chewing and things of that nature. Swallow that food, goes down through your esophagus to your stomach. Your intestines do their thing, and eventually you get an urge, you get a notification, if you will, from your body that says it's time to have a release, right? Stool, bowel movements have many names, as you can see here. BM. So if somebody says BM, they're talking about bowel movement. We might use the technical term and say feces. Oh my gosh. We might even say stool, which is another technical term. Or hey, if you're a little nervous about it or a little uncomfortable, you could just say poop. That's okay too, right? So that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about bowel movements and BMs, right? So why did I choose this topic here, and why is it important for you? So first of all, let's kind of figure out exactly like how often should we even be having a BM, right? So this is, like we said, this is a necessary part of life. You have to do this, right? It's something that we all do. I think there's a common little book, I think, for like potty training. I think it's like all people poop or something like that, right? So everybody does it, and you have to. Okay, so this allows you, one of the most important parts of understanding about what a BM is that it allows you to empty waste. Okay, and this is the key word here, right? This is the key word, waste. So depending on the type of diet that you have, you're going to have more or less waste coming out of your body each and every time you have a BM, right? So the waste from your diet, via your intestines, et cetera, et cetera. And we all make bowel movements, but their frequency varies. So depending on the person, depending on their makeup, depending on their diet, et cetera, you could have anywhere from 3 bowel movements a day. And some of y'all might be saying, oh my gosh, 3 bowel movements a day. And you could even go to 3 per week, right? And I hesitate to say that this would be considered necessarily normal, because again, we have to get into the weeds of your lifestyle and your exact diet. So if you consider the fact that us humans, right, generally when we eat something, generally about 12, 18 hours or so, it makes its full journey. It's more than 10 hours. It makes its full journey from mouth getting ready to go to toilet. So if we're thinking 12, 18 hours, you would think that on average, there would be a BM at least once a day, right? And the reason why I say I hesitate to say these things to be normal, yes, we're all different, but we also have different diets, right? So if we're eating foods that are contributing to more infrequent bowel movements, more constipation, less regular BMs, it may be pushing you towards this more of this three a week. And you got to get in, again, we get into the weeds about calling this normal necessarily. Well, if you have data that shows that, a certain percentage of the population is having a BM and it's only happening 3 to 4 times a week, and we do no more further research, well, it could be considered normal. All right. But that's just something to think about, right? Again, if it only takes about 12, 18 hours or so, give or take, for food to travel from mouth to toilet, you would think that on average, you would have a bowel movement every single day, right? So the important thing here to understand is that if a person doesn't have a BM often enough or too frequently, it can cause severe health problems. Nobody thinks about the fact that I'm not having a regular bowel movement as the reason why something may be wrong with my health. I think we commonly go to things like, we notice pain, back pain, or we notice that we've gained weight. We notice that our blood pressure is too high. We may have noticed that our glucose is too high, right? Maybe we had an injury, whatever it may be. We think about all those things, but nobody talks about the fact that if you're not having regular BMs, which is by definition a way to empty waste, and of course we know waste is something that our body doesn't need. If we're not getting waste out regularly, we're going to have a problem, right? So again, like we said, we're talking 2-3 times a day to a few times a week. Generally, my rule of thumb, if I'm coaching, if I know that I'm coaching a client who has no medical issues, you kind of want to be trying to shoot for that at least once a day to know that you're eliminating waste regularly, right? So as you see here, a quick little data report: about 50% of people poop once a day, and that's half, right? Another 28% report going twice a day. Look at that. And then about 5.6 report going only once or twice weekly. Personally, I'm like a twice a day kind of guy. All right, that's just me. All right. So again, as it says here, most respondents reported their average bowel movement was in the morning. Another 22% reported going in the afternoon. And this is just talking about different times of the day. The point is, in a 24-hour period, hopefully we're getting that out at least once a day. So what can affect how frequently you poop? Obviously, diet, okay? Insoluble and soluble fiber are both forms of fiber that help with your digestion, right? So obviously these sources, like as we continue to learn, my last video was on improving your sexual health, right? That was my last video, and so many of the same things improve so many things in our bodies, right? So again, we see here whole grains, vegetables, and fruits are all good at providing fiber, which are healthy for your digestive health and your bowel movements, right? Obviously, as we age, things get a little bit different. Activity level, again. Obviously, we know if we have any type of illness, sometimes it can promote things like irritation of our bowels, our stomach, and those things, as well as diarrhea and things like that. So there are variations and there are differences that can affect different things that can affect our bowel movements, right? So what is a typical bowel movement, right? What is that? Okay. Again, we talked about how often it should be already, right? And we talked a little bit about what can cause potentially constipation or we talked about how to avoid constipation. We talked about how diarrhea might come up out of illness, right? So again, generally, let's see, where's the part here? Yes, there we go. Excuse me. Yeah. So again, we have to make sure that these processes are happening regularly, right? If it's going on too long, then you're having a risk of causing severe damage to your health and your overall organs. And some of the tips, again, of having normal bowel movements include making sure you have plenty of water. So believe it or not, like, we think of like going to the restroom with our number one. We think that as the main thing that requires water. There's a lot of water that's associated with healthy bowel movement. So if you're somebody who doesn't drink plenty of water, that could be a problem, right? We've already talked about eating plenty of nuts and foods. We talked about adding fiber. Now, what I wanted to briefly talk about here is this portion here where we talk about cutting out foods that irritate your bowels, right? So if we scroll down here, where is it? We scroll down. I know it's on one of these here, or maybe it was just on this one. But anywho, if you look here at some of the foods that can irritate your digestive tract, right? We're looking at things like alcoholic beverages, caffeinated drinks, tea, coffee, all these different things, fatty foods, etc., etc. But in order to give you a complete list, I did want to kind of bring up, oh yes, the toilet book, written by yours truly. Don't believe me? There I am, right? So I wanted to bring up a little excerpt from my book where I talk about these things that I like to call, if I can get it on here, I like to call these I like to call these triple C foods. Okay, so again, we're talking about the foods that we want to try to eliminate. If you're saying, hey, I know for a fact that I'm having issues with my bowel movements, what should I be doing? So I call these triple C foods, and this stands for common constipation causing foods, right? Like I like to call triple C foods, right? So these are the ones, and I'm going to read directly from here for a little bit. So it's story time, everybody, right? So these are the foods that you probably see on TV commercials the most, and are definitely the ones that taste the best. Almost anything with cheese is going to make the list. Cheeses are generally high in fat and cholesterol. Which make digesting them tough, right? So foods like nachos, pizza, quesadillas, mozzarella sticks are all great at clogging up the digestive tract. Meats, and especially red meats, because of its higher fat content, are enemies of the perfect poop. I say perfect poop because earlier on in this book I talk about how to actually have the perfect poop. And the perfect poop should actually be something that's really passive, shouldn't be a strain, it shouldn't be any issues, all right? But we talked about that earlier. But anyway, are all enemies of the perfect poop. Chicken, beef, pork, seafood, etc. all require more energy from your digestive tract to be fully broken down, making it more likely that they could cause a blockage. Processed foods like frozen dinners and instant mashed potatoes, as well as potato chips and ice cream, make the triple C food list too. Lastly, most fried foods are almost certain to contribute to the possibility of constipation. Right. So again, shouldn't be any surprises here about the foods that contribute to constipation. Right. So again, what about, as it says here, what about foods that contribute to the perfect poop? All right. So what is dietary fiber? Dietary fiber is all the parts of plant foods that your body can't digest or absorb. Fiber is generally classified into two categories: soluble and insoluble. Soluble fiber dissolves in water, forming a gel-like material. Insoluble fiber does not dissolve in water, therefore adding bulk to stool. While they both do, what they both do is give you a better chance at achieving the perfect poop. Eating diets high in fiber increases the weight and size of your stool and even softens it. Stool that is bulky, compact, and soft is much easier to pass than loose, watery, or small, hard stools. That means that step one to creating the perfect poop is eating a high fiber diet. Okay, that's all I'm gonna give y'all. If y'all want to read the rest, obviously check it out. I'll show you exactly how to get that as soon as I wrap up here. So again, we know what causes constipation. We know why we need to make sure we're having regular bowel movements, and we also know how to have the quote-unquote perfect poop, right? So other things that you can do instead of just changing your diet, you can move more. Even think about changing your bathroom posture, right? As it says here, changing the angle of your legs can change the angle of your colon. All right, so toilet footstools are one accessory that you can use in the bathroom to do this. So we're basically talking about making sure that we have the right angle and the right posture. We're sitting correctly to help with our bowel movements, right? Um, so uh, keeping your bowel movements in mind. Remember, doctors have identified a mind-body connection to pooping, right? So a lot of times, and I wanted to go slow when I got to this point. Um, a lot of times, people are, and many of you are just uptight, anxious, and nervous just about the idea of just saying the word poop or bowel movements or toilet or number two, any of these things, right? We cringe about these things. We get nervous about it, and especially if this has to happen in a public restroom, right? Um, when these things happen, right, you got to remember that this is natural, okay? There's not a person that exists on planet Earth, okay? There's not a mammal, there's not an animal that exists on planet Earth that doesn't have to do this, right? So everybody has to do this, right? It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. We all have to do it, and it's health. It can be a healthy part of your day, right? So go to the bathroom when you need. You should never try to hold a bowel movement, right? What this does is it damages nerves and signals to your body and the areas that receive those signals, making it more and more likely that you'll be constipated and have issues with bowel movements. So when you feel the urge to go, you should go. Okay. So what else? Real quick. So 11 things that bowel movements can reveal about your health, right? So again, if I go back and I refer to my book here, we literally have a chart, right? Here it is. I literally have a chart about all the colors, and about what they mean, and we talk about all the different things. But I did want to make sure that I mentioned some of these things here, right? So 11 things your bowel movements can reveal about your health, right? So if pooping is comfortable, things are literally going well. Like I said, I like to use the perfect poop as look, and I love this little thing, dairy foods that can be torment for your body. Yes, part 3 of Darius' death is on the way, coming real soon. All right, but anyway, yeah, if you are having a comfortable, passive, easy poop, then everything is going well, right? Pooping shouldn't require too much pushing at all. They shouldn't hurt. They shouldn't require you to strain. If you're noticing any of those types of things, then there's something that you need to change about your lifestyle and your diet, because something's not right. This should be a fairly passive process, right? So you want to, if you're ever, I encourage everybody to always take a look, okay? I know you're like, you really want me to take a look at what I just, yes, absolutely. Again, I wasn't planning on referring to my book here so often, but again, if we go to the chart, I literally have an outline on all the colors. All the colors, whether it's brown, whether it's blue, whether it's yellow, green, white, black, red, whether it's light yellow, there's lots of different colors that you might see, and they can tell you a little bit about your health. So brown is best, so take a peek. Typically, the food you eat takes a few days becoming waste. It's a little bit long, but anyway, the point is, if your stool is on the greener side, it may take shorter time to digest, and that's generally no cause for concern, but sometimes it could be a cause, a sign of infection, right? Too few or too many bowel movements. Again, we're talking about, are you ill? Are you having diarrhea symptoms? Is your stool loose, right? Or are we talking about constipation and you're having too few? So again, this could be an issue as well, right? What else? Yes, we know that it already doesn't smell the greatest, but there are levels to this, right? And if you notice that something is especially rank, that could also be an issue, right? Again, we talked about loose already, but if you notice this is something that happens more often, it could be a sign of celiac disease. So if that's something to know, right? Maybe this is the only sign that you're experiencing that leads you to know that you have celiac disease, and now you can start making changes with your lifestyle and changing the foods that you eat. So that could be a sign of celiac disease, right? I didn't really want to. All right. So you can be regular but still be constipated. Some people assume that if they go to the bathroom every day, then they're not backed up. But constipation also includes hard, lumpy stools and the need to strain while going. So this is very important. Just because you say, hey, I go every day or twice a day, when you do go, what is it like? Are you straining? Is it difficult? Are you grunting and making all kind of noise? And when it does come out, is it hard? Is it lumpy and things like that? That's some things to consider when you're saying, hey, I'm still regular. But the question is, how is it once you're finishing, right? Shape as well. Generally, you want to have like regular round logs, if you will. Ooh, that sounds weird coming out, right? As it says here, the healthiest stool resembles small, smooth sausage links, right? You shouldn't have little pellets. You shouldn't have big lumpy bricks or anything like that. That could be signs of other issues, as you can see here. We're talking about IBS. We're talking about Crohn's disease. We could be talking about bowel obstructions. You could even be talking about different types of colon and stomach cancer. So again, I know this can be a funny issue and maybe something that you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to talk about it. But anytime we're talking about the word cancer, that's something that you need to make sure you're aware of. All right. And sometimes you can just simply look into the toilet and figure out, oh, this is not right. Maybe there is something going on. Maybe I can make some changes now before things could get worse, right? And then also be wary of medications. Many medications can either cause diarrhea or they can even cause constipation. So you got to look out for that. Check the medications that you are on to make sure that they're not negatively affecting your bowel movements as well. And then last but not least here, real quick, you never want to see that in your stool. I'll tell you real quick a personal story. One day I had a lot of beets and I took a peek at what I, at my business after I was done with my business. And it was blood. It was red everywhere and it made me nervous. And I said, oh, wait, I remember reading that if you eat lots of beets, it can actually turn your stool red. And that's exactly what it was. Like the same thing that can happen with blueberries, right? You eat a lot of blueberries, it'll be blue. Anyway, so the point is, if you do notice blood in your stool at any point, that's always a red flag. That's something you should never see. And that's almost like, I think I mentioned it in my book as well. That's kind of like an immediately should go have that checked out by medical professionals, physician, etc. Right? All right. So real quick, what did we talk about real quick, y'all? So again, we talked about the fact that we'll go ahead and wrap up, see if we got any Q&A. I got my phone here, so I always like to check my messages and things on my phone here. That's the easiest spot. So we talked about the fact that bowel movements are literally the last stop of food moving through your digestive tract. So we eat food, goes in your mouth, and eventually at some point, the waste products have to come out, right? We also talked about the fact that, where was it? We also talked about the fact that, bowel movements, where is it? I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought here. All right. We also talked about the fact that bowel movements are literally, their purpose is to get rid of waste. So all the bacteria that you don't need and extra fat and waste and other stuff, all these different things that we don't need, undigested food parts, all that stuff, that's the way your body gets rid of it. So it's a waste eliminating process, okay? We talked about many different things that can affect your stool and what your stool can tell you about your health. And then I also read a couple of snippets from my book, The Toilet Book, What Goes and Matters. So real quick, again, if you're visiting fitnesscharles.com, you can literally, that's how you follow me and everything, but you can literally hit books. It'll take you right to the page. You can check out my book, The 85-15 Diet Plan. But you can also, which is more relevant to today, check out my book, The Toilet Book, and you can get that. And hey, send that right to you. I got one right here, ready to go in the mail. Okay, so let's do some Q&A. Q&A. Okay. let's see. Okay. Yeah, I changed my diet and I started to notice that my bowel movements went from, yeah, man, that is cool. That is awesome. So the comment was that after they changed their diet a little bit, they noticed that their bowel movements went from uh, almost 1 to 2 times a week, which is ooh, it's almost horrifying. And then they got up to about 5 to 6 times a week, which is way better. So that's a perfect example of somebody giving a real life account of just noticing that hey, I was a little bit low on I was a little bit too infrequent on my bowel movements, but hey, after a while of changing my diet, noticed that I was able to improve that, which is excellent, right? I got one more. Only got a couple today. Um, oh, what is the first step in? Oh, okay, cool. So that question: what is the first step in being effective with weight loss? Right. Great question. Um, I think one of I think the first step with being successful with the weight loss journey um, would have to be, and this is gonna sound, it might sound a little cliche, it might sound a little lame. You might be like, "Ooh, I didn't really learn anything with that," but I might say actually setting goals that are kind of like realistic, right? You always hear this if you've ever watched any type of sales presentation or any business presentation or anything where you're trying to accomplish anything. They always talk about SMART goals, right? And this is so true, especially with weight loss, right? And the reason why I say, get that off the reason why I say, the reason why I say your goals have to be reasonable is because a lot of times people get impatient, right? They get impatient. I'm talking to the camera here real quick. A lot of times people get impatient. So, for example, somebody may set a goal and they'll say, "Hey, I have this high school reunion or this wedding or whatever's coming up," and they'll say, "Hey, I want to lose 35 pounds in the 2 months that I have before this happens." And the problem with that is that's just not enough time to effectively and healthily lose that amount of weight and keep it off. And generally, when they start getting closer and closer to that date, they will notice that the weight is not going the way they want, and they start to get discouraged. And lots of times, you end up quitting the program. And that's the issue with uh, a lot of the programs that are out there, where they're focused on speed and how fast you can lose weight, and that's just not sustainable. Okay, and the issue with that is in many cases, yes, can you lose weight fast with certain products and programs? Yes, you can, but the question is, can you keep it off? And the reason why I start every stream with "Let's Be Fit Forever" is because I mean that you actually need to make sure that you're focusing on how can I maintain these things for life. And that's what I coach clients. That's everything that I post is about being fit forever. It's not about speed, right? Because life is a marathon, right? So again, to answer your question, what is the best thing to do? The step one, if you will, for a weight loss journey. You got to set a goal that's actually reasonable. It has to make sense. It has to be based on the amount of time that you can accomplish this reasonably. And that allows you to be able to continue your journey without quitting, without being discouraged. So that would be my first thing. Good question, good comment. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap again. Remember, we're doing these streams every Monday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time, and also Saturdays at 1 p.m. Central as well. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, as I already showed you. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you go to fitnesscharles.com, if you're figuring out how to find that, as soon as you go there, it's gonna pop right up. There it is. It's going to pop right up. You can follow me Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow me on, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, make sure you like this video. Check out my 3 times the burn fitness program, 2 weeks for free. You can also figure out how you can join my Fit Forever family, which is Well, we're working on that. We're going to get something for y'all real quick. All right. But anywho, I will see y'all Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time for my next stream. Until then, make sure y'all are being happy. Make sure y'all are staying healthy, be fit.